Hey everybody, welcome back to the Chaotic Little Book Corner. My name's Acacia. Today I'm going to be doing the review for the last three of the short list of the Wellcome Book Prize. So I have Mayhem, I have To Be a Machine, and I have The Vaccine Race. I feel very happy to have read these, and I definitely got a lot out of all of them. But they were not as successful as the first round, and I kind of knew that going into these three that they weren't going to be as successful as the first round, which is why I picked them last. Mayhem was fantastic though. I did really enjoy Mayhem, but I feel I'll go into that in a minute. But so yeah, I'm going to give you a review of these three books, and then I'm going to tell you which book I think is going to win and which book I would like to win. So let's dive in and start with the one I liked the least, and that would be To Be a Machine by Mark O'Connell. This is the one I've liked the least out of all six, and I think that's a personal preference. I went into this book with high hopes and, no expectation of it being anything completely brilliant or anything like that, but high hopes that it was something good, and something interesting and relatable potentially. But it turned into this very clearly machine-oriented conversation about people and what machines are going to do to replace people, and to replace the idea of people's existence in terms of technology and work and existence. And it left me feeling really uncomfortable. I am not somebody who really feels great about the whole AI conversation. I am not really someone who likes the idea of technology taking over all of our lives. I am a very technology focused person in some ways, in that I have a YouTube channel. I am always attached to my phone. Well, I'm not always attached to my phone. I read more than I'm on my phone, but I always have my phone nearby. I do text quite frequently, and I have gone into medical procedures where they have needed to use science and technology in order to treat me. But that being said, I never want to be mechanical in my own body and to feel as if there is technology within me. And there's a really big conversation in here about technology and mechanics being within the body of a person, and what that would look like and how that would change our world and what that would do to people. There were hobbyists and scientists both alike having these experiences with mechanics within bodies of themselves when they're hobbyists, or within test people in science worlds, and that just left me feeling really cold and very distant from that experience. And I learned a lot. I felt like I got some information that I didn't have before, but I didn't feel that it left me wanting to go into a world that was more technologically advanced in terms of the body of a human. So that was how I felt about this book. I just wasn't thrilled by it, and it wasn't really one I would have picked up if it hadn't been on the short list. I understand why it made it to the short list. I think it's really fascinating, and I think it's an important subject. I do think that we are in a situation where life is pushing towards that way, where technology is going to be more based on the human experience on a day-to-day basis in the future. I'm not a fan of that future, and I'm nervous about it. So this kind of just made me nervous. Then we have this is The Vaccine Race by Meredith Wadman, or Wademan. So this was dry. I felt like it was a little bit of an info dump. I enjoyed it. I got quite a bit out of it. I knew a little bit about vaccinations prior to going into this, and I understood why vaccinations were important, and I understood what they've done for society and what they've done for people and for birth and for mortality rates and things of that nature, and being able to eliminate things like smallpox and to start eliminating things like polio and certain disfigurements. I am very intrigued and interested to hear more about that and to read more about that and what vaccinations have done for society that way. But I was left feeling really disturbed by the fact that, and I think I knew this on some level, but I hadn't put it into words. And that's the fact that vaccinations have been tested on poor people, orphans, disabled people, military people, and people in like situations where they are lesser in society. And that left me feeling really distraught. It left me feeling really cold, and it gave me the same sort of feeling as the Machine book did, where I just felt like society can do better, and it doesn't need to test on the weaker, or, I mean, I don't want to call military weak. They're not. They're very strong. But we shouldn't be testing on our military men or men and women with vaccines. It just shouldn't be something we're doing. I don't know how I would like us to test vaccines, but I feel like there must be another way. And then that leads to animal testing, which I don't really approve of either. So it's a really hard thing for me to kind of process as a moral person. How do you make these strides in medicine without testing on someone? And who do you test on? And I don't know the answer to that. And I felt really disconnected from this book after reading that fact and after kind of processing it within myself. And it left me feeling disjointed and awkward and really uncomfortable. And so I just kind of, it was a long book. It was, how much was it? It's 480 pages. It felt longer than that because it was so intense and so dry. So I wasn't thrilled by it, and I didn't think it was the best thing I'd ever read, and it just made me feel icky. And then we have Mayhem by Sigrid Rossing. She is the sister of a man whose wife was found dead from an overdose. And this is that story of her family after that death and overdose. And it also really talks about addiction and the treatment of addiction in society and the treatment of those who are surrounded by addiction in society and the treatment of those who are addicts in society. It talks a lot about the experience of going into treatment and the experience of going into therapy and the experience of death when overdoses are the cause. It talks about the relationship that drugs can have with a person and with a person's experience and the person's experience with drugs. I know that sounds like the same thing, but it feels different in my brain, so forgive me. I found this book really interesting and really good. I would have liked to see more of the book. It was pretty short, and it packed a punch, and I felt good about the book. Like, I felt like I learned a lot and I got a lot of information, and it talked a lot about the family and their experience, and that was great, but I would have liked more, and I would have liked to kind of delve into the overall experience of an addict. But that wouldn't have been the story had this been that book, because it wasn't the experience of an addict writing. It was the experience of a family member of an addict writing. So it's a different story that I was hoping for. Valued story, very important, very knowledgeable, very down to earth, actually, and very poignant. But it wasn't the story I was hoping for. I was hoping for the perspective of an addict recovered, and it wasn't that. So it ended up disappointing me. I wasn't thrilled by it, but I did enjoy it, and I liked it. Once I figured out what the story was and what I was reading, I was much happier with it, and I wasn't as disappointed when I finished it and finally closed it, but the initial response was disappointment. So this is definitely an interesting story, and it talks a lot about how people, when they go into treatment for their addiction, should be treated, whether if they're found with contraband on their person, should they be kicked out of treatment or should they be kept in treatment, because the treatment will help them, but they need to be willing to work for it. But having a relapse is understandable. It addresses that. It addresses the experience of what happens to children when parents are addicts and one is dead and the other one is put into jail for the addiction, or not jail, rehab. It was just really good. I did enjoy it, and it left me feeling really satisfied and intrigued and really interested in hearing more from the perspective of those around addicts or those who have been addicts. And it's a subject that I'm really excited to read more about. So that is my thoughts on those three. Now, which books do I think will win, and which book do I think will win, and which book do I want to win? So the book I want to win is Stay With Me by Adebami Adebayo. This is the one that I'm the most thrilled by. I found the most insightful, the most revolutionary. I loved this. I adored it. I give it 5 stars. I think it's worth all the hype, and I think it should have won the Women's Bailey Prize, because I've read the book that won the Bailey's Prize, and I think that this is a better book. So I already think it's been looked over for one prize, and I think it should be given to this prize. I think that. However, my gut is telling me it's between 2. In my brain, this is the 2 that I think it's between. I think it's between The Vaccine Race and With the End in Mind. This group of judges seem to really enjoy the conversation of death. There is several conversations of death within this book, I Am, and The Art of Butchering, or The Butchering Art. So there seems to be a mortality conversation that really is relevant within this group of judges, and I think that this book kind of circles around that much better, and I think this could win. I also think this could win just because I think it is probably the most groundbreaking scientifically out of all of them, and it could be the most upright story out of all of them. So I definitely think that it's between those 2. If I had to pick one, it would be this one. So my prediction is that this will win, With the End in Mind. But I could be wrong. I was wrong last year, but it's going to be a really interesting race, and I look forward to finding out who the winner is, and I will keep you guys updated. If you follow me on Instagram and Twitter, I will probably post about the winner that day on the 20th, and yeah, I think that is everything. So I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you liked it, give it a thumbs up. If you loved it, click that subscribe button down below. And I hope I will talk to you guys in the comments. Leave your comments in the comment box. I will see you in my next video. Bye.